Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, His Wife's Keeper 333. Well, I promised you we would have another video. Some things have happened over the last couple days. As you know, I'm starting a weight loss journey, but that's not what this story's about. This story giving you a little backdrop. I'm from West Virginia. I have a sister, 2 older brothers, my mom and dad. Some of this story's going to be hard. Some of this story is going to make you laugh, some make you angry, some make you cry, but it is this little girl's story. I guess we'll start off September 5th, 1982, 3:42 p.m., 8 pounds, 9 ounces. I was born. Well, we lived at Green Valley Road, and believe it or not, at the age of 1 is my earliest memory. And I remember not long after we moved in, a couple memories float to mind, watching the Ed Sullivan Show as my mom is staying up late as she can, waiting for my dad to get home from work. We didn't have it the best growing up. My dad was an Ohio State trooper. My mom did welding. After they got married, which that story's funny in and of itself, my mom met my dad at the VFW. My dad was a decade and a couple years older than my mom, but he fell down the steps drunk, landed at her feet. She looked at her mom, who was only 4 years older than my dad himself, and said she was going to marry that man. In and of itself, she did, which came me and my sister. My dad was married before. My brothers were 13 and 16 years older. Going back to Green Valley Road, my dad had to walk back and forth to work, and several nights I remember being in feety pajamas with the plastic feet. If you were born in the 80s, you know. If you know, you know. And waiting for my dad. He would come home with pizza, or my mom will have cooked something, but nonetheless watching TV on a little, probably 13 by 13 inch, barely color screen. Then those were some very, very happy memories. I mean, some of the happiest for a short little life. Then I remember my dad coming home and throwing my mom some keys and saying, "We're moving." We were in a little 2-bedroom trailer then, 70s model. They were hot, hot, hot in the summer, cold, cold, cold in the winter. When Dad threw the keys to Mom with what they built themselves, we moved to 30th Street in Huntington, West Virginia. I remember those times in my life also. I remember my surprise 3rd birthday party. My brother had taken my sister and myself out to eat, stopped by his mom's house, who was, anyway, threatened if I got popsicle on my shirt, I'd be spanked. We went to my brother's house, pet his iguanas that were about 4 feet long that he walked with harnesses, and we got back to Huntington, to the house, and it was one of the best days of my life that day, until some people, which I will back up and talk about, came to my party. I saw walking down the street to come and join in on the festivities. Then all of a sudden, a little 3-year-old girl got sick on herself, and the party was shut down. Everybody left. Well, I'm going to put a pause to that because we'll come back to it. I'm going to go back to the keys being thrown to my mom, and then moving up in the world and getting a bigger house. I remember moving in. I remember my dad's mom, bringing stuff to the house for Mom getting stuff from her parents, and just everything being extremely happy. Mom had a lot to do in those early days, getting a home running, all the while taking care of 2 small toddlers and having to live life herself. My mom had a couple problems coming up. She was born in La Chapelle, France in 1959, and she was born at only barely 6 months of gestation. Back in those days, it was unheard of. I mean, completely unheard of. She was 2 pounds, barely, and she was 12 inches long. She was considered to be a miscarriage, and they put her in a little metal tub, as I was told, to, I guess, either be cremated or buried by my grandparents. But my grandfather, which was in the room while my grandmother was giving birth, that was unheard of in the 50s also. But he loved my grandmother more than life and wanted to be there while each of his 7 children were born. And he heard a little squeak. He turned around. The doctors didn't hear it. He did. And he picked my mother's little body up and busted through the door to the little room beside the delivery room and told the doctor, she's alive, she's alive. My mother was flown helivac because my grandfather, my papa, he was in the service, to Germany, where she finally was given a chance at life, as to where before she was not. So after a year, she was brought home being the size of a regular newborn, just small, 6 pounds. And her crib was beside a wall radiator. Well, of course, as all babies do, she was throwing a fit one day as to where that wall radiator hadn't worked in many, many years. She was kicking at it, it came on. And it glue red hot. There was something wrong with it, and my mother's feet stuck to it. She had 3rd-degree burns from her toes up the back of her feet to her Achilles tendons. And after so many skin grafts from then until she passed away, she lived life fearlessly, in pain most of the time, and did it with a smile on her face. So, getting back to my mom and dad moving to 30th Street, after my mom was done unpacking, taking care of kids in the meantime, my mom got very, very lonely. And if people don't think kids know what's going on, they are so sadly mistaken. So sadly mistaken. They feel sadness, they feel hurt, they feel anger, they feel happiness, and all the little emotions in between, all the highs and lows. But as a 2-year-old, I can remember my mom crying, being lonely. Because my dad, bless his heart, he worked 12 to 15 hours a day, but had 4-hour walks to and from work. In the snow, in the rain, in the heat, life just went on. I remember daily, my mom would go into the bathroom, or she'd wait until we were supposed to be down for naps, which my sister normally was. Me, no, I was too much of a busybody. And I would hear her cry. She missed her family, who were 35, 40 minutes away. She missed everything she knew, and just being a woman in her very early 20s with 2 under 2, she was lonely. She was by herself. And then she wasn't. I remember a family moving in 4 or 5 houses down, and we were outside in the yard playing one day in the fenced-in yard, and the lady came up to introduce herself. She told her, "Hi, my name is Ruby. I have 2 children, Selena and Christopher." They were much older than my sister and I, of course. So she brought the kids over. I was a very shy, introverted child. My sister was rambunctious and full of energy and was ready to meet anybody, anywhere. The boy was 8 years older. Excuse me, I'm wrong. The boy was 11 years older. The girl, 13 years older. I remember looking at Ruby's daughter, Selena, and thinking how pretty she was. But I didn't get a very good vibe from her son Christopher at all from the get. Well, every day after that, I remember they would walk in front of our house and my mom made a friend. I remember my mommy no longer cried. She was no longer as lonely or sad as she was. Yes, as a 2-year-old, they know. If you don't think so, they do. Just, they do. They feel it right there with you. Well, my mother ended up getting a job at the local laundromat, dry cleaning place, laundromat, whatever you want to call it. Actually, it was both. And I remember my Meemaw, because it first started out a couple days during the week, my Meemaw would come and watch us because Miss Ruby worked there too. Then I remember Miss Ruby lost her job. And my Meemaw ended up going back to work because she was only off during that summer. And she was a lunch lady at the local elementary school. So she ended up in the fall going back to work. Well, Miss Ruby started watching us to get a little more income coming in for her and 2 kids. She was a single mother. And the first couple days I was over there, my sister, of course, hung around with Selena. She just loved everything pretty. I was the biggest tomboy God ever created. If it wasn't G.I. Joe, He-Man, or Inspector Gadget, or Heathcliff, or the Flintstones, I mean, I just loved everything that a little boy would have loved. I was sitting on the couch, and before I get to this part of the story, or start to get to this part of the story, if you've got children, exit stage left. I mean, if you have to put me on pause for a few, go ahead. And if you are sensitive, which I am, I understand, to happenings to a child that never should happen, in ways that I'm sure your mind is grasping by my tone or by my warning, please don't watch. And please be easy on the comments, because if a child doesn't want you to know something, they are some of the tightest-lipped little individuals that God ever graced this beautiful earth with. Anyway, the first day that Miss Ruby watched us, my sister was in the room with Selena, watching her put her makeup on and getting intoxicated by Aquanet. If you know, you know. It was the big hair days, the wings on the side and the poofs in the front, and spaghetti perms. I was sitting on the couch and I was watching Gilligan's Island. Miss Ruby had gone into the kitchen to make tomato sandwiches and grilled cheeses, which was the highlight of my day thus far. And Christopher came over and sat beside me and grabbed my hand and said, "Let's go play." I did not. He tried again and I did not. His mom came in and he scooted over to the end of the couch. And she said it was lunchtime. So we ended up going to the table, saying grace, and eating lunch. Well, everybody else did. I ate a couple spoonfuls of tomato soup and a couple bites of my sandwich, but my stomach was sour. I just had that intuition at even being so young that something didn't feel right. Something didn't set well with my little spirit at all. And yes, I do vape. This is every day. I'm not trying to make anything seem anything other than what it is or hide anything. So I vape. So after we ate lunch, it was nap time. I remember getting back on top of that same wooden couch, that dark glossy wood that had the couch cushions in the back that were the golden and burnt orange and brown leaves with the wagon print on it. And I'm sure you remember those. And I took a nap. And I woke up to a hand up my shirt, rubbing my back, saying, "Oh, did you have a bad dream?" I popped up just as fast as a jack in the box, saying, "No, no, no, I didn't," and hollering for Miss Ruby. Well, the hand that was up my shirt was Mr. Christopher, the 11-year-old. Might have been 12 by this point. And as I said, I was 2. So that day ended. I went home. I remember being so relieved that I cried and cried when my mama got there to pick me up. And went to sleep. That was the end of that. And day 2 comes. Well, I'm going to leave you guys on a hang note at day 2 because I need to gather myself and need to go through details before I start in again. Well, I love each and every one of you. God bless you and keep you and your families. And I hope you come back to see me. Like, comment, and I'll get back to you. Bye, guys.